Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Texas-based jazz trumpeter, vocalist, percussionist, and educator, the great Pete Rodríguez. We had a long talk about his life and music and his new 2021 CD called Obstacles. He carries the bloodline of salsa as he takes the tradition of Afro-Cuban jazz to brand new places. He's the son of renowned salsero Pete El Conde Rodríguez and godson of Fania Records bandleader Johnny Pacheco. He's an artist and human fueled by passion, talent, and desire. His story is one you should hear. Enjoy.
But hey, man, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course, man. Anytime, man.
Let's dive in right here at the top to talk about your latest album, Obstacles. And, it's coming out, all of this material is coming out kind of during a time where there can be live shows and we're kind of coming out of this pandemic. How does it feel to have new music out?
Man, it feels great because I recorded this CD before COVID. And it's crazy because I wanted to put it out sooner, but my engineer ended up getting sick, like really sick. He flew to Spain and he got really sick. So they never found out what was wrong with him. And I'm wondering if he actually ended up getting COVID like way before we even knew what it was. Like he thought he was going to die. So that delayed the whole process. And then COVID happened. So I'm like, I'm not going to put out a CD now, right? We remember at the beginning, no one knew what the hell was going on, It was kind of like, okay, we'll just wait. Then I was going to put it out myself, and I contacted a publicist that had worked with me in the past, and I had asked if she knew any record labels that might be interested, and I sent it to two labels, and Sunnyside is the only record label that replied like either the same day or the next day, and they loved the project, and I was happy to be a part of Sunnyside. Wonderful musicians are on there and have been on there. The first one that just came to mind now is the late great Jerry Gonzalez, Fort Apache. He was on Sunnyside a long time ago, so it was great to put it out in August, so I'm really happy with that.
What are you hoping the listener gets from this album? What do you want them to feel from what you put out there?
I guess I want them to, if they've been studying my work, I guess they'll notice how much I've grown as a band leader, producer, composer, trumpet player. When I recorded this CD, I wasn't even gigging, so it was extremely difficult to play with these wonderful cats, and then we didn't get to rehearse. What we did was pretty much all my CDs, everyone lives in New York, so I'm living in Texas, so I flew them out here, and we rehearsed in the studio, and let's say rehearse one tune, record it, rehearse, record it. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking for me. And all these guys are touring, so they're more in, I call it, combat shape, Perdomo plays with Miguel Zenon, Rudy Royston plays with pretty much everybody, Bill Frisell, Dave Douglas, John Ellis, he's one of the number one call cats in NYC, So all these guys in shape. I guess when people see the titles, especially like I have a couple of titles that are pretty, I call them funny. One is called Academic Backstabbing 101. And it has to do with my experience in academia here in Texas. I dealt with a lot of racism, and there's several tunes. There's about 3 tunes that have to do with the people that I dealt with in academia. And one, I can tell you one story. This lady put me into her office, and she says, "Well, you need to learn how to heed to your superiors," and blah blah blah. It's like, look, I treat everybody with respect, and if I don't like the way they treat me, I'm going to let them know that it's wrong. And she says, well, it's that you're really young and you need to learn how to be a good professor. And I was like, well, I'm not that young. And when I told her my age, we're pretty much similar in age. And she was like, oh, the problem with your people. That's how she starts the sentence.
Wow.
Your people is that you age really well and you're a very good looking man. I mean, just imagine if I would have said that shit to her. And I was very blessed to have an amazing father that was a great singer, and my godfather, great band leader, and all the people I played with in New York. I learned so much because I was constantly, when I did a tour with Bebo Valdez, I was constantly picking his brain, you know. Or when I played with Tito Puente, constantly picking his brain on how to be a band leader, you know, how to pick tunes or how to compose tunes, you know, and I want to give that back to the younger generation, you know, especially here where I'm living in Texas. There's nobody that has my experience, because pretty much no one here grew up in New York or in Puerto Rico. But my academic experience has been pretty bad that I've kind of like chosen just to stay away from it. But there's also some fun tunes on the record. I like doing, people call it contrafax, and it's basically writing a new melody over a set of chord changes that, you know, I like. I did 2 on the record. One is based off of Moment's Notice by John Coltrane. I wrote a new melody, and that's actually entitled 50, because the goal was to put out the record when I turned 50. Yeah. So I was going to the record 50, but when COVID came, you know, I ended up turning 51, and by the time the record came out, I had turned 52, so I didn't want to name the record 50. And then I have a tune called Obstacles, which is based off a tune called Minority, so I ended up naming the record Obstacles. And I think it's a really cool title because it has to do with, you know, obstacles that I've dealt with in my career, you know, good and bad, you know.
What do you like the best about being a musician? What's the best part of this process for you?
It's a tough question. It's like sometimes I love it and sometimes I hate it. You know, I mean, that's, you know, just me. You know, it's like 1 minute, you know, I mean, I guess one of the things I love the most is being able to travel the world. That I've seen a lot from a very young age, you know, because of my playing the trumpet or, you know, being able to sing or play minor percussion. You know, I've been able to travel around and meet or even see the best musicians in the world, you know, and to be able to, I guess, create stuff in the moment, you know, the better I get, the more fun it becomes, you know. You know, this is a great question. No one's ever asked me this question. What's the best thing I love about being a musician? You know, being a trumpet player can be kind of hard, you know, because the trumpet is, I call it, it's one of those instruments that, man, you can sound great today, and then you could pick it up the next day, and it sounds like you haven't played it in a month, you know? It's like, so you kind of struggle with it. So that's why I'm saying sometimes it's a love-hate relationship, or 1 minute, you know, you have great gigs and you're doing what you love, and then the next minute the phone doesn't ring, you know, and you're like, wow, how am I going to pay bills, or why is there no gigs, you know? So, like, for me, COVID and no work didn't stress me out at all, because I've been in this situation before, like no work, you know, and I feel like it was worse because I was, you know, colleagues and friends and people that I don't know, they're all working, you know, and I can't even find a gig at a club. So I already knew I had a dry run of, like, okay, not being able to work and doing odd jobs. Like, I was a physical therapist aide for 2 years, you know, couldn't find any work. I was working at a gym, answering phones and cleaning machines. And that was like with a master's degree. I had been on a Tito Puente record, won 2 Grammys. I had been touring and all that. So it's not like I was doing this stuff in high school. This is like a grown man in my 30s. I would clean offices late at night, medical offices. I was even walking dogs in New Jersey after putting out at least 3-4 records. And I remember I had a Honda Element, and I had sometimes at least 6 to 10 dogs in my car, depending on the size, you know. So and it's not that I hated that. That was actually fun, and that's what I needed to do to do, you know, to survive, you know, to pay bills. I even worked in an athletic store selling athletic stuff, you know, sweatsuits to running shoes, $8 an hour. I felt bad for people that had never dealt with not working, because I was speaking to friends and they were really stressed out, and they were asking me how I felt. I was like, well, man, I've been dealing with this on and off for more than a decade, so this is nothing new. I can handle it. So I just felt bad for my friends that never had that issue. And there was musicians all around the world were stressed out with that, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem going and working at a supermarket if I have to. You know, I don't, like, I want to be home. I'm not going to do that shit, you know? Like, no. I actually was working as a landscaper at one point. That was hard. You know, starting at 6 in the morning in Jersey and finishing at 8 o'clock at night. You know, I didn't want to pick up my trumpet, you know, so I just roll up my sleeves and do it, you know.
Well, you know, the one thing about COVID is it was a real self-reflective time for everybody. And what did you learn about yourself that maybe you didn't realize before that's going to make you stronger as you get out and promote your album, do more live shows, and get back at it?
Like I said, since I had been through this before, it was good for me. I mean, my daughter loved being home that year and a half, and you know, I'm home all the time because they got rid of me at that university. So I was home practicing, composing, and teaching some students, and my wife works from home, so our life didn't change that much because we were already home. The big difference was my daughter being home all day, but she loved taking her classes from home. She never complained one single day. We have friends that have kids that were being, you know, they were having a rough time. They like being in school, so it actually brought our family even closer together. You know, movie nights at night. You know, going for long walks together. You know, my wife and I run together. You know, I bike. I was until like a year and a half ago, I was a competitive Cat 3 cyclist here in Texas, you know, so most of the time I'm by myself anyway, riding my bike, whatever, 3 to 5 hours at a time, you know, or running 10 miles with my wife on a Sunday. I was used to being in this situation, so that's a really good question. What did I learn more about myself?
Yes. No, I'll tell you what. I'll give you this. This is what I was going to piggyback off of that. Everyone has a perception of who you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. You have a perception of yourself. Who do you think you are?
Oh man, who do I think I am? Wow, you have great questions, man.
Thanks, man.
Oh yeah, no one ever asks that stuff. I mean, man, I'm just trying to be the best human being I could be. You know, the best father on the planet. I think there's very few fathers as good as me. You know, I mean, I'm talking about waking up early in the morning, making my daughter breakfast, taking her to school, making her lunch and dinner, and the best husband, you know, good listener. I'm also kind of complicated too. You know, I don't let people walk over me. I let them know, you know, how I feel. Who am I? I guess I'm the type of person that's always searching to be a better human being and be a better musician and constantly listening to my surroundings. You know, like I love people watching or listening to people talk. You know, for example, let's say if I'm with my daughter at Outlet Mall where I live here near Round Rock. I live in Georgetown, Texas. If we're sitting down and I see three people talking, I'll try to figure out, you know, what are their pitch qualities and their rhythmic concepts and see, oh, wow, could I create a tune over, you know, by listening to their creative concepts, you know, their interaction of call and response and their tone qualities, and maybe and listening to what the sound the wind is making or the people that are walking, if one person is dragging their feet or one person stomps, one person coughs, can I turn that into a rhythm, you know, between the stomping, the shuffling, and the coughing, or if a door opens and I hear a squeak, can that be a piano line, you know, a glissando going up or down, you know? So I guess that's me, the critical thinker, you know. Sometimes that's great, but sometimes that could be a pain in the ass because I can't shut shit down.
I get it. I think we probably share a lot alike. There's a lot of things you just said that I totally, I feel absolutely the same way. But, you know, sounds like you live life to the and you soak it all in as much as you can, and there's nothing wrong with that. I take that bread at the end of the pasta dish and I soak it all up, every inch that I can get. So that's a good thing. Great answer, man. Pete, I am so glad that I was recommended to you. You are one of the reasons why I do this. I really want to shine a light on the cats out there that just don't really get their due or get any media or any of those things. So I'm glad I ran into you. I'm looking forward to profiling you on the show and playing the music. And keep the faith, man. Keep doing it.
Thanks, man. What I've come to realize is, like, everybody's put on the planet to do a certain thing. Some people, especially musicians. My dad. I don't know. Do you know who my dad is?
No, I don't.
Whoa, damn. So that's what you need to check out. I'm nothing compared to my dad. Fuck. So his name is Pete El Conde Rodríguez. Okay. One of the baddest motherfuckers that has ever lived in the salsa world. You ever heard of the Fania All-Stars?
Oh, yeah.
So he was the first singer signed to Fania All-Stars. You ever heard of a guy named Johnny Pacheco?
Yeah.
So Johnny Pacheco is my godfather.
Okay.
And father sang with Johnny Pacheco, and they had a group together. And if you're going to look up Johnny Pacheco's music, you're going to hear my father's voice. So he sang with Celia Cruz. He did a record with Celia Cruz and my godfather. And besides him being a bad motherfucker, he was probably the most amazing human being I've ever met. He was too nice, and people walked over him. In this business, when you're too nice, it's actually not good. You almost kind of have to be an asshole, so people don't walk over. Well, you should check out him.
Totally.
You should talk more to him than me, man. But I'm nobody compared to my dad. And if you check out his music and my music, I did a kind of a tribute to him. And I sang, there's a record called El Conde Negro, and I'm singing Papi's tunes, singing salsa, but mine are, they have a jazz feel. There's no salsa montunos at all, but there's a percussionist. So I redid his music within a Latin jazz feel. And that did pretty well, as far as I ended up getting some good write-ups. So Dalby gave me 4.5 stars out of 5, so I was extremely happy with that. But that'll be cool if you can check out the tunes that I did, and then you do your research on YouTube and hear what my father did, and the stuff that he did was amazing. I mean,
yeah, I can do a retrospective on both of you whenever I do the show. So for sure, I will definitely check it out.
Well, okay. Well, hopefully I answered your questions.
Yeah, no, you did totally.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Texas, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Pete for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.